Hey guys, I'm going to talk about when I used to be Catholic, and what I wanted to talk about was the idea of confession. Now, I never liked the idea of confession. It always made me really uncomfortable. The idea, even before I had any logical or actual thought-based reasons for disliking it, just the idea of appealing to some strange dude in a booth, telling him all the bad things he did, that seemed on the scale of Santa. Like, would you go through a ritual to get gifts from Santa? It seemed so far fetched to me, even as a kid, before I even actually thought about it. That I was obviously uncomfortable with it for a lot of my childhood, and then as I got older, I didn't go very frequently to confession, maybe once or twice a year, by force, of course, and it's an interesting concept because when I started to think about it when I was growing up, when I was 16 and 17, I started to realize how messed up it is because as a Catholic, you're taught that priests in confession act as a mediator between God and you. But God is accessible to everyone on this planet at all times. You need only pray to him and he will be there for you. So, at a first glance, it didn't seem to be necessary at all. And really, the only thing I could ever glean from it is the fact that a priest or pastor could give you spiritual advice if you didn't know what to do. But that was never the case with me because I wasn't going through any, crazy religious or psychological or physical struggles. So, to me, it was just the most awkward way you could ever feel bad about all the things you've done. It made you go through all the things that were supposedly bad that you've done and make you recount them and I suppose get rid of them. But it's an altogether unpleasant experience. And I wanted to talk about today about how it's sort of a not so benign practice. And what I mean by that is that when I was younger, it always seemed that you needed confession to stay safe. And what I mean by that is stay safe from hell. Because if you um, went to confession, the day before you died or something, or right before you died, your sins were absolved. You had a free pass to heaven, which was pretty cool. Um, kind of messed up morally, but that's how Catholicism works. As long as you're truly sorry, that is. But um, I I remember listening to my parish priest. He was giving his homilies, his talk about how Satan acts in our lives, and he said that you may not want to listen to God or go to confession or do any of the things Jesus or God the Father calls on you to do, but you should do them because you never know when you're going to die. And Satan, he said, would keep persuading you that you could do it tomorrow or the next day, or you'll have time later when you're older to be religious and do what God says. You'll have time, you'll have all the time in the world to do everything that God calls you to do. Just do what you want to do today. And he said that's what Satan would do to everyone, really. And it's only now that I look back on that I realize that is just controlling by fear, which is really messed up because as I see it now, looking back, it was like confession was a way to not only tie you to the system, like the church system, it made you go through the church in order to get to God, which is outrageously immoral. If God was real, I mean, if God was real, he wouldn't give a shit. Excuse me, he wouldn't care about about going through a man, a mortal, flawed human being, to speak to him. You would just pray to him, and that's always how I viewed God when I was religious. So I mean, even when I was still religious, it still seemed ridiculous to me. But what it is, yeah, you're tied to the system of the church. You have this guilt thing as you recount your sins, and yes, they're forgiven. But the fact that you have to tell someone other than God, who God understands everything you are, everything you've been through, everything you will go through, everything you've ever known or haven't known, God has been there with you. And I had a lot of respect for this idea, the sacredness of the bond between a human and God. And to give that to a priest, to a human who is just like you, who chose to be a priest, and it just so happened that he was there, at your parish, the same place that you were at, to hear your sins, seemed absurd. No human should have that power. Especially if there's a God, especially if God is real. But you've got this system that you're tied to. You've got to talk to the priest, and if you don't, if you are lapse in your regular confessions or regular visits to the church, then you're giving in to Satan, and you could die at any moment. But you'll never know when you die, so you better just do it anyways. That kind of sounds like a weaker version of Pascal's wager to me, because it's like, you think of how much you're losing if you don't go to confession every week and stay safe from sin. I suppose if God was real and that system was true, that would be the best thing you could do. But looking in from the outside now, I see the amount of control, whether it was intentional or unintentional, the factor of fear had. Because as a kid, that's how I viewed it. I viewed it as you had to go to confession, accept God and everything, and if you didn't, and if you didn't get your sins forgiven, you were going to hell. It's just control with fear. And it's a little bit disturbing to realize this now, because that's kind of what I was raised in. And there's been a lot of indoctrination that's happened in my life, but it's messed up in that it's it's basically saying, you don't know when you're going to die, so stick with us, because we're telling you that when you die without us, you go to hell, so you better be with us when you die so that you go to heaven. It's like my Catholicism gave me the incentive to go to them, because if I hadn't been Catholic, I would never have believed in hell, and therefore never had the idea of going to confession to begin with. So I talked about this in one of my other videos, where religion grabs you, takes away your worth, and gives you worth in the context of its theology. And I think my Catholicism did this exact practice, which is interesting now that I realize it now. It fits into what I talked about in my other video, where I'm doomed to hell, apparently, according to the Catholic Church, without getting my sins forgiven by Jesus. So not knowing when I'm going to die is a good way to keep me sucked into this little system where I'm forced to have my sins forgiven through confession and through church, and I'm trapped in this cycle where I'm too scared to get out of it because of my fear of hell. And although I'm uncomfortable with the idea of talking to some old dude about the things that I've done that I feel bad about, I can't escape it, because that's the only thing that has given me value. They tell you you're going to hell, and then they tell you the only way to escape that is to do what they want you to do so you can go to heaven. They give you the goal, and they give you the punishment for not reaching the goal. So you've got to go for that goal. And I've gotten a little sidetracked here. I just wanted to talk about how messed up the control with fear confessions how they utilize this fear control in order to keep someone in a cycle. And I know on the inside it doesn't look anything like that because I was Catholic for most of my life. But on the outside, it's really scary, honestly, to look at it. And I'm sorry this video is so long. I don't know how I rambled on for this long, but there you go.